you shouldn't be spending your time and your focus and your energy and your effort on the technology. You should be spending your time and your focus and your effort on understanding the process and identifying the right problem to solve. So if you think
Hey everyone, we're here at the Prove It podcast booth, and I'm here with Eric Mirandette and Mark Freedman with Tulip, and they just had a chance to give me a demo of their Prove It session, and I was actually really blown away that not only, we can get into your development platform, but like you specifically dug deep on the problem that you solved, and it was an actual problem within the manufacturer. Some of the vendors, they kind of took a very generic approach to what problem they solved, which is fair because they wanted to obviously highlight their platform's capabilities. But tell us about the problem you solved for this virtual factory customer.
Yeah, maybe I think before we get into the specific problem, I want to make a key point, which is this is how we highlight the capability of Tulip or the platform, which is to say, it's not about the platform. It's not about the product. It's not about the capability. What it is about is like using the technology as a problem-solving tool.
What problems are manufacturers facing?
Well, they're facing many problems.
But the two that you highlighted.
In this particular case, well, I'll hand...
Complex?
Yeah. Well, this is an observation about the state of all manufacturing operations generally. The first is that they're all very complex environments. If you think about it from like a complex systems theory perspective, like they're complex environments. And two, they're dynamic. They're evolving. They're changing over time as the operation evolves, as the needs evolve. And that's a really crucial aspect to keep in mind when we think about how are you going to deploy Tulip to help improve efficiencies within these operations at any given point in time. The point is it's a moving target, and it has profound implications for how you think about leveraging technology in that environment.
Which is and that moving target is really what, in the PowerPoint you did was really highlighted that moving target, things are changing, dynamic. Mm-hmm. And you want to tell us a little bit about that problem?
Yeah. So, I'll be honest and say that, first of all, I love solving problems in manufacturing. My background's in manufacturing. And, there are people every day on the shop floor who keep it running. And you may think that things are more organized than they are. You have these ERPs that are sending these signals and you have all these tools and all this stuff. But in reality, you have people walking around making it work. And so we like to empathize with those people because we're all about augmenting the human, giving them the tools they need to do their job better. And Tulip is, to me, like the ultimate problem-solving tool. And I was excited to have this opportunity to actually solve a real problem. But it was unusual because we couldn't actually go to the shop floor. Normally, that's where you go. You go to Gemba, you understand, you talk to the people, you see what's going on. We only had a small window into this. So we had to sort of imagine what the problems were like. And apparently this is a real problem they have. Because what we saw in the data, from the data we had access to, was that they basically have 90 schedule exceptions. And in December, they had 90 schedule exceptions, meaning they want to run these press machines as often as they can. They're not running that often. Their availability is low. And they're always changing the schedule. They're skipping jobs, pulling jobs. And to me, that sounded like, wow, I don't see anything in here that supports the person who has to bring the material to the machine. I don't see any tools here for them. So they must be doing the Lord's work trying to make this place run. So how can we support them? Okay. And then we just started imagining, based on the data we saw for reasons they pulled a job, that people are probably picking jobs that aren't ready, and they are doing that. So this must mean material handlers how can we help them, augment them? So we make them sort of like a cyborg. We give them this situational awareness. We take the UNS that has all the data. We know when it's running. Oh, thanks. We know when it's running. We know when it's going to run out. We can give that information to the material handler and tell them, you need to go get this material for them. And then the material handler might not find it. And they need to tell the press operator, okay, I don't find it. You need to pick a new job. So we just imagined all the things that can and likely do go wrong. It's like Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong, especially manufacturing.
I dropped the roll and now it's damaged.
Yeah. One thing said roll was in the other building. So we're down. But like, they could have known that before, but they just didn't communicate on it. So we just gave them a really simple application to kind of prove the point. And the thing is, there's nothing special about this problem, this solution. This is just an example.
One of many.
Yeah, this is an example of what it's like to have the capability to identify and solve problems in manufacturing, So you start with this, you bring this to what I would do next is I would take this to the material handler and say, hey, listen, I listened to you. I heard you. Here's what I heard. Does this make sense? Let's try this. And they'd say, oh wow, this actually, it turns out this is a problem. Okay, cool, let's build it this way. And you do it rapidly. So this whole app came together in 3 days, and I wouldn't want to spend any longer on it because now it's time for me to go to the floor with it, work with them, change it. And then we find later that, well, what's the number one reason that we're finding these jobs being pulled? Oh, it's because we falsely identify work being ready, and then you build an app to do that. You're like, oh, how do you know if a job's ready? Oh, we use this Excel sheet that we write on. Okay, let's build an app for that. Let's get you going there. And that's sort of the journey that you're on. And that's what the platform's all about.
Yeah. And then not only that, like you real quickly showed me how to develop something, throw a barcode scanner on the screen. You scanned my badge and then publish that as a topic to the namespace. So we'll talk about Tulip as a platform in a second, but like, how did your session go? You guys presented yesterday. I'm interviewing after you did your on stage prove it session. Was it both of you guys up there?
Yep.
Okay. It was. How did it go?
It was it started out as a presentation. Then it turned into a demo that was, I would say, pretty planned. Then it evolved into a show and tell. Hey, but we could do this. Then Walker, I think, stood up and was like, "Mark, you killed it!"
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like a free for all. The crowd started shouting out, and we were just like, "Oh yeah, we can do this. What else do you want to do?" And I don't know. It was pretty fun.
I was a little nervous because I haven't spoken in front of that many people before. So I practiced a little bit. I'm like, how long? I know it's only have 20 minutes. How long is it going to take? I'm going to go over, and I spent most of my time making that stupid animation in After Effects instead of on the actual app building,
which is actually a really important point. So the apps that we talked about yesterday, we were joking over dinner last night, and we're like, Mark, I've never seen your PowerPoint be so sharp. Like, how did you do those animations? And we talked about he actually spent more time making the animations in the PowerPoint than he made making the applications.
Well, and also that was how I figured. That was kind of.
That's the best way to most quickly communicate the problem visually.
Yeah.
And when I was making the app, actually, that was how because I couldn't talk to them. So I did that sort of for me to imagine what it was like to be them, Like that was my going again. But
they did this without ever visiting the facility or talking to the operators, and they found a real world problem within the data, which speaks to the power of the unified namespace. But then to build 3 different applications for the material handler, the press operator, and then the supervisor in a short amount of time.
But what was interesting about the presentation though is that I ended up having 10 minutes left after doing it. And so when Walker said that, I was like, okay, cool. Now we're just talking.
So what? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, now we're just talking. So I'm like, oh, well, what else do you want to see? You want to see this? Because it's fun to build stuff. So I just
started building stuff.
That's when I built the scanning of your badge.
You started showing off a little bit.
Well, it was just I don't know what we were doing, but
what was an interesting question that you got? What was the best question?
Well, I think one of the interesting questions was it was more of an observation, which is the whole point here is you shouldn't be spending your time and your focus and your energy and your effort on the technology. You should be spending your time and your focus and your effort on understanding the process and identifying the right problem to solve. So if you think about where we spent all of our time leading up to this and preparing for this, the hard work was not building the apps. That, Mark did in a couple days. The hard part was which apps, which problems do we want to really focus on to move the needle for this particular operation? I think that really speaks to what Tulip is all about. We want the technology to sort of fall into the background, and we want to, and the reason Tulip is a no-code platform is because we want developing these things to be really easy. We want that to be a power that we give to the people who understand the process the best and who are closest to the people on the front line, because they know where the problems are and what needs to be focused on. And then it should be easy to take technology and leverage it intelligently on top of a unified namespace to surface the right insights at the right time to the right people to inform better decision making.
Mm-hmm. One question I liked was what other tool would you use to solve this problem? And
that was actually my next question, and I was going to ask it differently, but I was going to say you probably get asked this often. It's well, why would I already have Ignition. Why don't I just build these applications in Ignition? And I think I know the answer, but
the question was what would be the best tool? And my answer, and I stand by it now that I think about it again, but it was the tool I would probably use, the best tool I could probably use would be to be a professional programmer and write bespoke software
from
using
scratch.
But that's not the problem. I'm actually not believe it or not, I'm not actually solving the material handler problem.
Right.
I'm solving the capability to empower those who understand that problem and problems like that to solve their own problems.
Which is then why you built Tulip.
Which is why Tulip. Yeah. So like, I'm actually not solving, and that's that's one of the challenges.
If I didn't have Tulip, I would just go build it.
yeah, exactly. And that's why I was like, I have to join this company, because it's like, I want to be able to solve these, because problems are going to change, and I want to be able to leverage technology that's otherwise not available to me in solving these problems. Like, what would you reach for? There's a reason why people, when they're doing, I'm a Kaizen guy, there's a reason why people reach for Creeform, and they make whatever they want to make out of Creeform, and they're not furniture makers, but they can go in a closet and they come out a couple hours later and they have this perfectly made bench, and then maybe it's not perfect, and they go back and they adjust it. And that's a capability that's just not available to the frontline, like people who run operations when it comes to software. So that's actually the problem we're solving. And it's difficult because when we communicate, sometimes it can be difficult because people see what you built and they're like, oh, so is that Tulip? Oh, is that what we're like? Is that what we're buying? Can it? It's like
people anchor on the solution on the app, and they say, oh, well, like I want to buy that app. And I say, well, you can go to the library, you can import. You've got hundreds of apps there that you can use as kind of a best practice starting point, but that's not the point. The point is the investing in your infrastructure and in your IT architecture such that you have the ability to leverage technology to solve problems in this complex and dynamic environment that is a manufacturing operation. The apps that you're going to deploy today, the problems that you're going to solve today, are likely and should be, I would argue, very different than the problems you're going to solve in 6 months. Because you know what? As you solve those problems, you're going to be chasing efficiencies. Though that's not your problem. You solved it. Something else will come up, and you need to have the ability to be able to continue to evolve and continuously improve your operation.
Yeah, and you could build an app that solves a problem, and it's like the best app for 3 months. And then you find out that there is actually a root cause problem. And you end up solving that one. And now the first app is kind of obsolete. You don't even need it anymore because you don't have those defects anymore. It's like, it's just another tool. Like, so,
but if the cost of deploying that was a couple days, then who cares?
That's how you're going to evaluate. Do I buy this app off the shelf? Even if it's open and plays with your ecosystem, do I pay for this app that's already developed versus, let's say I have Tulip? How long is it? It's not just how long is it going to take me to build it the first time, but then when I need to change it or maintain it or update it or it evolves, versus when you buy an off-the-shelf app, they have like a standard preset list of functionality. Like, let's just say if you wanted to buy an ERP app or a point-of-sale app, you guys did Brewlip. That was a pretty cool app at your conference. Or even here, let's say if I'm a manufacturer and I'm like, do I build CMMS in Tulip or do I go to MaintainX and buy their app?
Well, the other thing is, like, if you have something that's working, then we believe in an open ecosystem. Like, we're not trying to rip and replace anything that you have that's working. The fact is that people are currently reaching for tools and building things, but they typically reach for what they can reach for, which is like Excel.
Familiar with.
Like Excel.
And by the way, if you think about like what's the number one software development tool that engineers use to solve problems in manufacturing?
Excel.
Yeah, it's Excel. And it's what's hilarious is a lot of times, and look, like we believe in full governance. Our platform is well outfitted with approvals and approval chains and version control and all of these things. We run in regulated environments in which life-saving drugs are being created, medical devices are being created, parts that are going onto airframes that are keeping jets in the sky. So look, governance is a super important topic, but a lot of times when we talk with people, they say, whoa, this is like a scary and dangerous capability. And there's like this like come to Jesus moment where I'm like, you realize your engineers are doing this right now. And there's always like no, they're not. And I'm like, yeah, they are. They're doing it with Excel. They're doing it with paper processes. They're doing it with grease boards. You just don't know it. So you're not,
that's what stood out to me, in that problem that you highlighted, like the lower, like 57% or 54% availability, 90 schedule changes. That was a symptom of a problem that you imagined the material handler going through, and their current workflow. I was saying, like, it was obvious to me that they're doing this in their head right now. They're looking at the dashboard. They're trying to anticipate what's coming, and then just having to react, but without that feedback loop to the supervisor or the press operator. So you're already doing the problem, so you might as well just make that easier for that user, which is a very empathetic, and that's why you guys are the frontline operations platform, I would say.
Yeah. And we did, the UNS was really useful in this, because I've only really become aware of UNS thanks to Walker and his, ideology. And I found it to be really interesting because I think we might have been the only, and I haven't seen all the other, I'm looking forward to seeing the other presentations, but we made a point to put the human in the UNS because almost every one of these booths is throwing high frequency machine data in there. But like, I'm a human. When I go to the factory, I'm talking to humans, and those are the people who run it, and they belong in there as well because like it's not just we're not just giving human context to the like what work order's running and whatever to that machine. We're also bringing the machine context to the human, so now they're a part of it, and that information we can see over time. Like, well, who's been running this? What are the material requests like? What are the lead times going through? Are we getting better at this over time? Because all this other stuff, these great solutions you've seen from some of our partners like Snowflake and whoever else, like they're doing this AI work on top of this information. So now you have, now you have that visibility into the reality of the shop, like the full picture,
Well, and I think that's a really important point because, look, UNS is fundamental. It's super important, incredibly helpful in terms of how to understand what problems to go after and how to build those solutions, which we've talked about. But I do think that UNS sometimes misses the other. I don't know, maybe it's half or something, but it's like there's no place for the human worker in the UNS if you don't have a human-centric platform that allows you to take the insights that are available in the UNS and expose it to them in situ, and then also capture their input and incorporate that as a data source into the broader UNS. And so I think traditionally when people think about UNS, sometimes they're biased towards thinking about it from like a machine perspective or like an automation perspective, but we're really we're leaving out the most important part of the manufacturing operation, which is like that human worker on the front line.
Yeah. And it also does, I'll just say one more thing about it because it also adds to the other persona that we care about, which is the person who serves manufacturing operations. So the person building the apps, that person, and it should be a citizen of it,
citizen developer,
but like that, but there is ultimately a person who's serving, right? They're serving the manufacturing operation
versus executing.
And that person, and they could be executing, but that person is now able to very quickly through the UNS, like, I don't know anything about what's running on that machine. I don't know anything about the tags or anything, but I could just go in there.
You were pulling the data from Aviva's MES.
So and that's the thing. It was super. I have no idea how they did that, and I don't even care. All I know is I want the OEE. I want to know when that roll is going to run out. So I just go press whatever. This is the roll. Drag onto my screen. Now the material handler has it. So like it's also empowering to that person. So the UNS was definitely like it made it so I could do it in 3 days instead of 7 or whatever. Because otherwise I'd have to figure out how do I get it out of the machine and all that. Instead, it was all right there.
What do you guys, as we wrap up here, like, what are you guys looking? What stands out to you the most about the conference?
For me, it's I love the community that Walker brought together. The people who come over and talk to us. Like if I've been to not many shows, but when I went to like one show, like a lot of people come by, maybe they're like disinterested. They don't maybe care about.
They don't engage.
But people come over here. They're like, "Hey, I have this problem. Here's what my factory does, and I know the details about how the factory works. And can you help me?" And I'm like, "This is awesome. Talk to me more about like I just learned a ton about how potatoes are made and chocolate milk is made." And I'm like, "Oh wow, we could build an application for this." So I made like literally an hour ago, we made a. Because he didn't really understand how UNS works. So I'm like, okay, let's pretend like we're writing this chocolate milk thing to your vessels and they have this thing. We built a dashboard for him like in a couple of minutes. And I don't really do that in conferences, but with the people who are here, they seem to be citizens.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
The next conversation was how the F-35 is made, just for context. So it's like wild who are coming together.
All right, we're getting kicked off here.
He's gonna say something.
No.
He has to say something.
Yeah. I just want to say that, all right, so yesterday, Mark, like really the show started, like there's been great presentations, but like the high level started when you guys got on stage. Like the biggest buzz, you guys were I think third presentation on day one. Opto did a great job. Software Toolbox they did a great job. But you were the first presentation where I'm like, the customer will want that. Like I could literally drive you to the plant right now and they're going to go, I want that. Because there were two things. Mark and I were talking about it this morning. There was a variance number on one of the applications that showed that they had 90 schedule variances in December of 2024. And that number was right. I thought it was 89. You had 90 on there. that was the right number. The customer doesn't know that number. That's a KPI they don't know. So 90 changes means 90 variances means 90 opportunities for inefficiency in the workflow. And number two, you unified the material handler with the supervisor and the operator. Right now at that facility, the material handler is not integrated. So he's wandering around and no one knows where he is, and he's looking at dashboards on the wall, which is better than the way they were doing it. But the application you built was you covered 2 actual specific problems that client would have.
They can have it.
Yeah, and I actually said we should take you guys to the plant, and we should say, hey, listen, what right here, this is 50% of the way there. Yeah. There's 50% more work, and then this would be actual production.
And then it'll change, because you know what? You'll solve that problem. And there'll be other problems that you want to solve, and then there'll be other problems you want to solve.
It blew everybody away. It really did. You guys. And then when Concept Reply and Snowflake came up afterwards, you guys upped the game. Tanya actually told me. Tanya's our conference director. She said the number of vendors who actually submitted changes to their presentation after you guys, 6.
Oh wow!
6 of the vendors came and said, we want to change what we're doing, and they're still sending the updates. And it was after your guys' presentation. You guys blew it out of the water. It was awesome.
That's funny.
Thank you guys for being here.
Right, thank you for having us.
Thanks, man.
All right, I got to end it, but yeah, that was the last thing I want to, you were talking about we always say industrial Internet of Things is not just machines, it's software, hardware, and people.
Yeah.
And so we'll end it with that.
So important.
Awesome. Get your people into the Unified Namespace. Take a look at Tulip. We'll have information how to get started with Tulip, as well as how to connect with Eric and Mark down in the description below. Thank you for being on the podcast, guys, and have a great conference.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Zach.
My pleasure.